everyone, we are from SMS Tuanku Jaafar with our presentation on how the pandemic affected the emission of greenhouse gases and climate change. We, the Aurelia Ligers, supervised by Puan Hajar Nur Azila, consists of Muhammad Safwan, Nadia Nadrishya, Insyirah Syuhada, and myself, Maisara Hana.
The outbreak of the COVID-19 had affected global energy consumption that mainly caused by the changes in human activities during the pandemic. Human activities were highly associated with the rate of emission of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and nitrogen. A research has been done by Ligers in April 2020 under the assumption that this emission reduction were scaled based on the maintained lockdown intensity. The result shows that the daily emission was 70% less than the daily emission in 2019. The drop in percentage was highly related to the human activities that mainly caused the greenhouse gas emission, which are from the transportation sector, residential and commercial sector, and industrial sector. I will carry on with my point with the transportation sector. Malaysia produced about 42.43 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide, which is precisely 22.9% of the amount of carbon dioxide emission in Malaysia. Road transport played a major share, which is about 85.2% of the total greenhouse gases emission from transportation, which primarily come from the fossil fuel burning of vehicles, such as car, trucks, and planes. The outbreak of the COVID-19 has brought a huge impact on the transportation industry, which caused the decrease in greenhouse gas emission. This can be viewed from the perspective of sharp decline in transportation and lockdown mandate.
The second sector that lead to greenhouse gas emission are residential and commercial. Greenhouse gas emission from businesses and homes arise primarily from fossil fuels burned for heat, the use of certain products that contain greenhouse gases, and the handling of waste. This sector includes all homes and commercial businesses, excluding agricultural and industrial activities. Moving on to another point, namely air conditioners. Air conditioners are a modern wonder. They save countless lives during heat waves, cool giant servers to essentially make the internet possible, and in general, make life in one place more comfortable. Air conditioners consume large amount of electricity. The fluorocarbon compounds, which contain chlorine, use as refrigerant deplete the ozone layer and contributed to climate change. Have you ever known that hydrofluorocarbon and chlorofluorocarbon are mainly from air conditioners, and it will rise into the stratosphere where the ultraviolet light freeze the chlorine? A single chlorine atom can destroy thousands of ozone molecules. Because of this pandemic, many people use air conditioning in their homes to keep cool, but keeping our indoor climate cool by using air conditioner has made the outdoor climate much warmer. Then, as the earth goes warmer, we use more air conditioning, which warms the earth even more in a vicious feedback cycle that only going to get worse over time, and more people have access to air conditioning.
The positive impact of the COVID-19 toward the residential and commercial sector are the reduction of noise pollution. Noise pollution caused changing balance in predator and prey detection and avoidance. Thus, quarantine measures reduce economic activities and communication worldwide. Not to mention, the pandemic also made negative effect on the environment, which is likely related to humanity outcomes that harm the nature. The first one is municipal solid waste generation and the reduction of recycling. During the pandemic, the data shows an increase in the amount of the household waste, which can be related to the increase in demand for online shopping. As a result, many countries postpone their waste recycling activities to reduce the transmission of the disease, especially at the recycling facilities.
As for the third, we have the industrial sector, and what is generally known by society is that the industrial sector produces the goods and raw materials we use every day, directly and indirectly. For direct emission, it is produced at the facility by burning fuel and is influenced by the consumption of fossil fuel, leaks from natural gas, and the use of fuels in production. As for indirect emission, will occur off-site and is associated with facility use of electricity. So, one of the elements in this sector that largely contribute to greenhouse gas emission is actually the fashion industry. As we live in a modernized era, appearance play a major role into the society. And this has led to the production of approximately 2 billion shared annually on average. And what is not well known is that a lot of processes are involved in the making of clothes. Cotton needs to be harvested, then turned into slivers, then to sheets, then it needs to be woven by hand into clothes. And the journey of these materials from farm to factories, then to your local supermarket produces a large carbon footprint. As movement control orders have been released by the government, the apparel production demand has generally decreased. On the facade, This may appear as a good sign for the environment. However, we should know, as people are staying more at home, demand for casual wear increase. This has led to increasing in cotton production demand, because cotton is on the top list for most comfortable clothing materials. This has become an issue, because cotton is actually the crop that uses the most pesticide and insecticides in the world.
To another point, which is disposable item. Since pandemic, the personal protective equipment, also known as PPE, has already increased plastic pollution in response to high PPE demand among the general public, healthcare workers, and service workers. Also, a single-use face mask production in China soared to 116 million per day in February, about 12 times from the usual quantity. Not only that, individual choice during lockdowns are also increasing the plastic demand. As our climate change, the planet gets hotter, the plastic breakdowns into more methane and ethylene, increasing the rate of climate change, and so they're perpetuating the cycle. The losses is, due to pandemic, the flow of food delivery service has been resistant, and the service also increased. This business involves disposable items such as paper bags, food container, forks, spoon, drink cup, and more. This will increase the production, and there will be a lot of waste and also the release of greenhouse gases.
The greenhouse gas emission caused several changes in climate, including glaciers melting. Carbon dioxide emission produced by human activities affected the climate as it causes the thinning of the ozone layer. The ultraviolet light from the sun warms up the planet, which causes the glaciers to melt and cause the sea level to rise. This will eventually lead to the disappearance and extinction of numerous species, as glaciers are the natural habitat of terrestrial and aquatic animals. Therefore, the reduction and shutdown of human activities due to lockdown measures slow down the effect of human activities worldwide. To be mentioned, the greenhouse gas emission caused flower blooming out of the season. The thinning of the ozone layer resulting in high temperature receive and impacts a crop's optimal growth period as it receives more radiation from the sun. Thus, most crops experience negative effects on the amount and quality of yield. The crop produce flower earlier or slower than they usually do, which causes pollinated plants not synchronized due to migratory patterns.
The source of the fact of greenhouse gas emission is higher ocean temperature. This shows that carbon dioxide continue at record levels despite COVID-19 lockdowns. The ocean absorbs vast quantities of heat as a result of increased concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, mainly from fossil fuel consumption, such as from the car. The ocean is being disproportionately impacted by increasing carbon dioxide and greenhouse gas emission from human activities. The carbon dioxide reacts with seawater, lowering its pH and leading to ocean acidification. Increasing ocean temperature affects the marine species and ecosystem. It will cause coral bleaching and the loss of breeding grounds for marine fishes and mammals. It also affects the benefits humans derive from the ocean, such as strengthening food security, increasing the prevalence of disease, and causing more extreme weather events. The first way is by investing in green projects. The burning of fossil fuels pollutes the air and contributes to global warming. Time to get rid of this ancient energy source and use energy more efficiently. We can turn wine into energy by making the wine turbine. The wine turbine project, made from bike parts and discarded aluminium, gets bonus point for using recycled pot. Next, we can do a gardening project. Planting a garden will literally make the world greener place, and also install solar cells on the rooftop. Not only that, we need to reduce the brightness of computer screens. And last but not least, install the automatic movement sensor to switch off lights in buildings.
Next outcome to diminish the greenhouse gas emission is through the behavioral changes in community. For example, converting biodegradable waste into a useful soil fertilizer instead of sending it straight to the landfill. Use public transportation or carpooling for commuting in cities instead of individual vehicles to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. Recycle paper, metal, plastic and glass materials. Growing trees together with the annual and perennial crops in a given area. By adopting of this behavioral solution, we could mitigate 19.9% to 36.8% of emission between 2020 and 2050.
As another result, we should encourage the practice in utilizing green technologies. As we all know, green technologies are deemed to be environment friendly as it reduces waste and carbon footprint while it does not release greenhouse gas. In addition, green technologies also work more efficiently as it consumes less energy than conventional technologies.
For example, like the country China that owns most of the electrical buses in the world. So the conclusion is we live in a complex system and our actions have an impact. That means everything we do will affect our lives.